Well, I've been busy making advent calendar panels. This is from the Makower collection from 2022, and this is the Christmas London scene. Each pocket is an advent day, and I fill mine with chocolate. What do you fill yours with? This one has got the scene of the London Eye, St Paul's and Big Ben with Santa. And I wanted to choose how to sew around the edges, what colour to sew the edges and what to quilt. And I opted to quilt the shops, the top deck of the London bus, the post box, the London Eye, and Santa's sleigh. I've used a very soft carpet weave binding on the edge, and on the back I've used a plain cotton, but you can see the quilting on the back. This one's the Christmas house. And finally, Santa's workshop. This one's very jolly. Let's have a look. There's that little pixie girl again at the bottom. These are the single pockets and double pockets. I'm going to show you how I made these. This one has cotton bias binding on the edge. The colour is fantastic and the gold really shines. I'm going to send this to a family, and I hope that it'll take pride of place in their home for many years to come, and I hope it becomes a family heirloom and a prized treasure. It's been made with love. This one's called the Christmas house. It's really large and delightful. It's very big. I can't get it all on one picture, but if we look at some of the detail then down here, I've got them on my ironing board ready to iron them. I'm going to cut them out tonight and tack them, and you can see, look, cat in the window, a doll's house with a teddy and a rocking horse and a delightful Scotty dog in front of the front door. This is House Advent Calendar by Makower, 100% cotton, really good quality. I was starting to say the reason that I make these is they make very good gifts. And if you make Christmas presents and send them to families, the one that's got a house on it I can send to a family rather than just to young children. And they're going to be heirlooms that will come out year after year. And because of the quality of them, if I make them well, I'm hoping that the families will hand these heirlooms down because they'll last for generations. And I know when I've given them as surprise gifts for people, they've been delighted. And they've also said, have you made that? And I say, yes, I have. And that's made it, that's made it more worthwhile. So that's the house advent. And the third one I'm going to make is this one, which is quite terrific. Open it out and see. It's a London scene. Oh, sorry, that's not very good, is it? Right, so there it's out. It's a London scene. Look, We've got taxis, postbox, London, double-decker bus, shopping. We've got the shops. And then we've got London scenes at the top. The London Eye, I think that's meant to be one of the churches, St Paul's and Big Ben at the top, with Santa going across the top. Now on this one, the panel is going to be made where the Advent numbers are going round the panel rather than on top of the panel. And they're really quite splendid. And the colour and vibrancy of these are really what make them absolutely zing when you've made them up. Don't you think that's terrific? Well done, Makower, for printing these. Now, I bought these from eBay. And when I went to the patchwork shop in Lady Hayes in Frodsham a few weeks back, she said she hasn't got the Makower stock in yet. But I know that she was selling them for around about the same price that you could get them for on eBay. And also Makower do a matching print. I've just got a red cotton that I'm going to put on the back of this, and wadding material. And then I've got tabs to put on the top. So this one then is London Christmas Advent Calendar panel by Makower. And I'm going to iron these, cut them, and then tack them tonight, ready for sewing on the machine tomorrow. If you look at the Advent calendar, you'll see that many of the panels to sew on, the pieces to sew on, are single, but there are some doubles where they're side by side. That's a single, that's a double. When you come to cutting them out, there is a solid line with a scissors symbol, and that's where you cut. Where there's two pieces together side by side and you're going to need to fold the material back, there's a dotted line. Don't cut along that dotted line because you need to fold it. That will apply to all of the Makower Advent panels. At the top of each panel there are sewing instructions. They're printed in English. You can see what I mean about fold this back. And as I'm cutting around, I'm going to preserve those instructions, but I'm cutting around just outside the red line just to give me a tiny edge. I want to preserve as much of this vibrant red as I can. And as you see on this, they have printed gold. It might not be shining very well, but it is printed with a gold. It's lovely. Sometimes I use a gold thread to sew some of these, and I think I might try that on this. While I'm tacking these down, these pockets, I find it helpful to finger press. That's just pulling a fingernail across the edge of the fabric just to fold it flat, and then fold the edges over using a contrasting cotton. For the double folds, I find it helpful to use a pin and pin them in place. It's important that the gold still shows on the edges and that the edges meet and that they're the same level at the bottom. This is what it looks like on the back. It's just got a single fold there. I'm going to finger press around the edge so that the gold shows, and then I'm going to tack it in a contrasting cotton. Use this carpet weave for something soft for children, like a playmat. It bends beautifully. It behaves the same way that a bias binding would. It will fold, but it's nice and soft. It's very pliable. I've then looped the straps over, and I've made 4 straps, so they're going to be equidistant along the top. And I've started them in slightly from the edge. So I've done about at the edge of the red. I'm going to start with my binding halfway down one side to come halfway down the red line. When I turn it out, I want the red cotton to show. I want sufficient to be able to turn over, and I certainly want the gold line to show through. I'm starting down the side seam because I want the neatest seam to be over the top, and I've moved the straps away from the corners so I can get a nice neat corner. When you come to the end of your binding, allow for the fact that both the binding will fray and so will the cotton edge of the panel. So I've turned back this first edge. I'm going to over sew and then cut, and I'll finish this binding by hand on the reverse. I've cut it on an angle, and I'm just going to go over it with a few back stitches just to secure it. On the front, my edge looks like this, and I will secure this further with hand stitching when I do the binding on the back. When you turn the right way out, the straps will look like this. At this point, I've cut my batting and my backing, which is bigger than the actual size of the advent panel. And I've pinned it together, and I've pinned it wrong sides together. And I've put pins in where I think I may want to quilt around. Now, what I need to consider on this is I could quilt all the way around the house, but I don't want to cut off the legs of the reindeer. I can go round the chimney and cut off the legs of the owl. So what I might do is look at straight edges and go down the designs there. What I don't want to do is sew across anything where it would defeat the object of having a pocket in the way. So here I might do a line just on the top section so we can still get into the pockets. Always quilt from the inside out. This is why I haven't cut the quilt backing yet. As you start to quilt, you'll take up more of the quilting fabric and it will start to pull inwards. I'm going to stitch in the ditch around the edge to make sure I've got a very neat edge before I cut any batting off or any backing layer off. And the other thing I need to do is just make sure that I've got the backing flat. Please note that my tabs are outwards at this point. Try not to bunch your material as you try and pack it to get under the machine. And as you'll notice, I'm starting from the middle of the quilt outwards. If you find there's too much bulk, especially in the area where you've got straps pulled back as well, cut back some additional fabric and batting so that your fabric will fold over. This is what the corners will look like. I'll neaten that with a hand stitch. And if you don't have any of these very handy clips, just use pins.